What's happening out in the wild world of independent wrestling? Weekend at Effie's. It's available on all podcast platforms and has the first-hand accounts of professional wrestler Effie each week as he tries to make sense of his crazy adventures, travel, and plethora of weird wrestling shows shared without interruption to friend and spiritual confidant Peter. Weekend at Effie's is a raw and thought-provoking look into a chaotic world, and with over a year of episodes available, there's plenty to listen to now. Just search Weekend at Effie's wherever you hear podcasts. That's Weekend at Effie's, EFFYS. They also have a TikTok and Twitter at Weekend at Effie's, or Patreon, patreon.com/Weekend at Effie's.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey guys, what's going on? It is Travis Hughes, and we are back to talk some AEW Dynamite. This was a great show. 4 matches, 4 titles, some promos, some great promos. A little lengthy, but good nonetheless. Not gonna take up a ton of your time tonight. This has been one of my favorite episodes in a while, actually, because you don't usually see this sort of structure of a card where there are a few promos, but the matches are all title matches, and there's just a few of them, and it takes up the entire duration of the show, and makes for great television because the matches were very good. There was a scary moment towards the end of this show. I gotta be honest, at first, I wasn't sure about, its validity, but I was more sure as the segment went on, but we'll get to that. Just to get right into it for you guys, just as a reminder though, we have Full Gear coming up, and obviously I'm alluding to something with this. Full Gear is coming up on the 19th, I believe, of November. It's going to be fantastic, per usual. And I can't wait to discuss it with you guys at that time. But to kick off tonight, for Dynamite, we had the Trios Championship match between Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends versus a Death Triangle. Now, before I say how this match ended and who won what, I wanted to note a few things. The Lucha Bros, and I hope somebody pushes back on this because, man, there's a lot of evidence, but the Lucha Bros are the best. They're the best tag team on the planet. If you consider what they did with the Young Bucks, because they had a few matches that were just absolutely insane, and all the different tag teams that they work with, they just always look unbelievable. They're just on a different level. There are a ton of great tag teams in all of professional wrestling. It's not to say that they're good and the rest of them are not good. There's so many good ones, and these guys are they're in another tier. I love that. You know how in regular tag team matches you have tag team maneuvers that usually start with somebody being on the turnbuckle and the partner gets in the ring. They do some sort of tag team suplex, just double team moves. You know what I'm talking about. I love that triple team moves are a thing now with the Trios Championship. I love that. The drop kicks in the face they were giving Orange Cassidy there, the Death Triangle was. I love that they're making it a thing. Because why not, right? You have your Trios Championships. Why not do all the same things you would as a normal tag team championship? I love Penta's face paint. I know that has nothing to do with the actual wrestling or the show, but his Joker face paint. He's done it a couple of times, and each time I see it, I love it. It pops, it stands out, and it absolutely fits his personality inside the ring. Another thing I noticed with this match, Pac obviously is always angry. That's just his character. The dude is just angry at all times. But, like, he did great with sort of displaying this residual anger from a couple weeks ago when he lost to Orange Cassidy. Like, it's carried over, and he's done a good job in sort of holding that grudge. I noticed that, and I wanted to point that out. Because I've said this before. I believe I've said it before on this show, that the heels do the better work, in my opinion. The harder work, for sure. It's very... In my opinion, of course, I am not a professional by any stretch, so really, what do I know? But in the wrestling world, it appears to be much easier to go out into the ring, say, "What's up, Cincinnati, Ohio," and just get a huge pop from just saying the city that you're in, right? Being a face seems like the easier of the two roles that you could play. So when somebody is a heel and they're great at it, I think it says a lot about their ability as a character in the ring. But Death Triangle retained their tag team championships, their trios tag team championship, which obviously there'd be no reason to take that off of them right now. But like Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy, these guys, it was still a great match. It just was never something. At no point did I think, Death Triangle was in real trouble here. The second match of the night was the AEW Interim Women's World Title, Toni Storm and Shida. The women's matches continue to impress. Storm hit a tornado DDT in this match that I thought was excellent, a thing of beauty. I'm sure the irony is on purpose here, but it being a tornado DDT that she does with her name being Toni Storm, I'm sure that's on purpose. Toni Storm won this match, still your AEW Interim Women's World Championship. Man, I will never get that right, saying Interim Women's World Championship. The match felt a little rushed, in my opinion. This was a great outing for Shida. But you never felt like she was actually going to win. Same thing with the Trios Championship. You never really thought she was going to win. There still isn't a number one contender for the women's title. Toni Storm continues to battle on here as the interim champion. Post-match, of course, Britt and company, they hit the ring. They beat down both women. The normal Britt Baker DMD type of thing. There was a segment real quick right after this. Sorry, I know I'm moving through on you guys, but there was a segment right after this that was Warjo, which I told you guys before I love that name. They challenged Embassy, and they refer to Maria Kanellis as a cackling bird. Oh my god. Right after that, the FTR had a interview with Renee, and it's such a sight to see them holding all the tag team championships, Ring of Honor and AAA, and I think they absolutely should put all 4 tag team belts on them. Like, why not at this point? They have 3. Why not just have all 4 and just be the greatest tag team of all time? Which obviously goes against what I said to start the show, which is that the Lucha Bros are the best in the business, and they are. But it's such a sight to see FTR have all these titles, because they are that good. They really are that good. The second part here, the next part is MJF cut a promo Tony Schiavone's in the ring with William Regal. And before Regal says anything, MJF comes out. MJF asks him to put the brass knucks away, I think is what he says. And then MJF cut a very lengthy promo on Regal here, explaining that his time in WWE when he was very, very young, Regal was one of the people that was mentoring him, and he told this very long story about how Regal basically told him, you have what it takes, but you're too young, and so I want you to go home and work your ass off, and I want you to, send me a match and a promo once a month. And MJF claims that he did that, and then on the third month, Regal responded and told him, he's watching all these wrestlers all the time, and he doesn't have time to watch MJF every month. This was a very passionate promo by MJF. Regal I feel like has always been fairly underrated on the microphone. And his response to MJF was like, look at where you are now. What I said to you worked. It lit a fire under you, and look at where you are right now. I got to be honest. When I was listening to this promo, I noted because I take notes as I watch. I noted that the babyface turn is on for MJF, and I still feel that way. But there was something interesting that was said, and it's basically like William Regal is trying to coach MJF into being a very different villain than he is now, a villain that does it the right way, which seems sort of like an oxymoron, really. But I sort of like this dynamic that Regal is coaching MJF on how to be a better villain. But I think you really were delaying the inevitable, which is that MJF is on a babyface turn. Maybe you guys don't think so. He went from calling Tony Khan a fanboy, being an absolute heel, to cutting promos about doing things the right way. So like, I think it's pretty clear that the babyface turn is in full swing. But this was a bit lengthy, if I'm being honest. This promo was a bit on the long side, but you never really felt like it overstayed its welcome. It's because you love to hear MJF talk, and based off some of the promos he's cut in the past, you never really know where it's going to go. So you appreciate him while he's on the microphone. He does a lot of screaming, and he tries to do a lot of like real life things. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it was like almost crying that he was doing in this promo, or he pulls it off a lot. Sometimes I wonder though. I'm like, I feel like that was a bit forced, but either way, he's so passionate that it doesn't even matter what he's saying. He just, the crowd is going to cheer. And in a city where Jon Moxley is king, MJF was getting pretty loud reactions. So take that for what you will. I think the face turn is on for MJF. The next big match of the night, though, was the Ring of Honor World Championship between Chris Jericho and Dalton Castle. Dalton Castle is a guy I liked years ago in Ring of Honor, before he ever won the Ring of Honor World Championship. This is before like the boys were really anybody that was like that ever had any real match credibility. You know what I mean? Now they've all been in tons of matches, and but the Dalton Castle back then was more of he felt underappreciated then, and he sort of, even after being Ring of Honor World Champion, still sort of feels underappreciated. I don't know if it's the very flamboyant character that maybe turned people off of him a little bit, but I very much enjoy Dalton Castle. And this is another title match, third of the night, where you were under no impression that Dalton Castle was going to win this from Chris Jericho. I have Jericho, he won this match. He hit the Judas effect out of nowhere, ending this match. I have whined and complained about Jericho being the face of the Ring of Honor, championship scene, but I gotta be honest, he's growing on me a bit, because maybe I was just too stupid to see it at the time that there was a plan in place here. I felt like you didn't need Jericho to carry this company and its main title. Like, you should have given the younger guy with, the brighter star, the brighter future, the chance with the belt. He's growing, his title run is growing on me, because I see more what they're doing now. They're having Jericho absolutely just discredit everybody who was a Ring of Honor World Champion. Not as a way to make Ring of Honor look bad, but to make this title, because he's defending it on a weekly basis at this point, to make this title prestigious for the person who wins it off of him. In fact, and this is a note I wrote at the time, in real time, Jericho was on a warpath to discredit the Ring of Honor World title, but in doing so is making it more prestigious for the person who beats him. And make no mistake about it, this was the plan all along. So whoever it is Jericho eventually drops his title to, the title and the new champion are going to be so much better off because of this title run. Not because of who Jericho is, but because he's beating former champions, and he's not just dropping it willy-nilly on every other show or anything like that. He's making it important, and each time he does a match, he has a match, it feels more important. Even though you never really thought Dalton Castle was going to win, it still felt important. And so I think this, I'm pulling a complete 180 on this, guys. I actually very much like what they're doing with this. I still think that the older guys don't necessarily need to be in a spotlight all the time, and I've beat this horse to death, but in this case, it's working simply because of the end result that you can see now. Though I'm very curious as to who is going to beat him for that. And your fourth match of the night, and obviously your most important match of the night, was your AEW World Heavyweight Championship between Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page. This match spilled into the crowd before it ever even got started, which is usually a great sign for a match. Jon Moxley was bleeding, which is it's just become a part of his character at this point. It might as well be a part of his attire. The part of this match that had people talking, though, was the lariat that Hangman Page took. He gave one to Moxley, and then he received one from Moxley. And the impact didn't seem too crazy, but he landed really, really weird. And I wonder if maybe there's just a part of the impact that we didn't really see, or just it hurt him more than we could tell just from the impact, because he hit the mat and immediately looked uncomfortable, and you could almost tell something was wrong. The referee knew immediately. Hats off to him. And I could be being way dramatic right now, and I haven't actually dug into this to see if this was a work, which is a shame that you have to do that somebody would ever fake an injury on live television. At least not one that stops the matches, which is what happened here. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but this match was stopped after that lariat, and Moxley won, which is why I believe it absolutely was not a work, because you could see that AEW was scrambling to close out the show in a way that was fitting for the night. The referee immediately, as soon as Hangman hits the deck, referee, hats off to him again. He was clearly, something's wrong. He gestured to the ringside physician. Then immediately went to Moxley and was like, I don't know, whatever he says to Moxley, like, hey, he's hurt, whatever. I don't know what he says. So they talked to him for a minute, and it was a quick decision, really, to end this match. And I love that AEW is pretty, like, forward with what happening here. Obviously, Hangman was hurt, and they stopped the match. The crowd wasn't a fan of really fans of that, but nobody really was being awful about it, because you sort of got it. He was hurt. He was actually hurt. This isn't like a work where they just ended your night early and you got ripped off. But the interesting part here was how AEW adapted to this, right? Because there was time left, and you didn't get the ending you wanted for the night. So they were sort of scrambling. They were having issues with the microphone. Moxley calls out MJF. MJF responds immediately. I love that he... Obviously, this was something they were planning as Hangman was being attended to. But MJF responds immediately. He comes out. He's got a ref by the shirt, dragging him to the ring. He's got his chip in hand. He gets in the ring, he's still in like street clothes, like dress clothes, which is my first indicator that he wasn't wrestling. Gets in the ring, takes his shirt off, prepared to fight. Gets out of the ring. Regal's standing there. Regal was on the announce team for this match. Regal's standing there. He's jawing back and forth with MJF. MJF gets out of the ring. Runs up. Looks like he was running away. Runs up to the announcer's table there. Grabs a microphone and tells Moxley, like, hey, I don't want to fight you right now because you just had a match. I want you at 110% so that when I beat you, there's no denying that I'm better than you. Right? This is, once again, babyface talk. Heel MJF doesn't care about that. But this transition to babyface, this is the sort of thing you're going to get. He claims, for the first time in his miserable life, he's going to earn it. And this is obviously something spurred by the conversation he had with Regal just 40 minutes prior to this match. And I felt like this was a very gutsy move to pull. Not like character-wise, but I mean just in general. To have MJF go from basically your hottest heel to somebody who's a budding babyface was ballsy to sort of go that route with him. Considering the sort of heat that he pulls, or he's capable of pulling. But regardless, he tells Moxley, I'm cashing in at Full Gear, which again, I believe is the 19th of November. I have to double check that. Tells him he's cashing in. He wants to do it right. Moxley obviously is never going to say no. That's just not what he does. And that's sort of how the show goes off air. And I first of all, I like the whole, even with the Hangman incident happening, and obviously we hope Hangman's all right. Moxley said as much as well right after the match when AEW was scrambling to finish their show. Moxley claimed that he hopes Hangman is all right, and the show goes off the air, and immediately I think to myself, I had a few thoughts right off the bat. Right, the first one is, this was a great show, even the way that final match ended, because it was 4 matches, all for titles, and I felt like that was a very interesting way to do this show. But I loved it, and when I tried to read like reviews and stuff, I haven't had a ton of time for that. But when we're reading reviews and stuff, people don't seem to mind. You don't have these like marks that complain about everything like a lot of times you get from the WWE hardcore fans, which I am as well. I love both, as I told you guys. But because a lot of times you get people who would complain about the way that Dynamite ended. But in this case, that the fans they're so loyal to AEW that they understand. The way that AEW recovered and they finished their show out on a high note, a very anticipated feud happening. The show based on what I read, seem to get pretty good reviews, and that's great to see that you could operate on the fly like they did and sort of pull it off. So I was very happy with the night. I felt like it was some great wrestling. One of the notes I had was, I mean, I've said a couple of them to you now. I meant to save them for my final thoughts. I'm going to start doing a final thoughts at the end of my reviews for you guys. But I believe I've listed them all to you here, as I have them written down in order, really. FTR should have all 4 belts, because why not? I'm excited to see where the MJF story is going, especially considering that I fully believe they're turning in babyface. I'm coming around on Jericho being Ring of Honor champion, as I explained before, that their plan for that, I think, is an easy one to see, and I like it. I like it a lot. And then I wrote, MJF is going to earn it, I guess. I'm not pushing back at all by this babyface MJF. It's just different for me because I know him and his best work is as a heel. I haven't read anything. Maybe you guys know. I haven't read anything about the return of like the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega. I don't know when they are rumored to come back. I'm assuming CM Punk's not coming back. I thought I read something a while back about them looking to part ways. Maybe, again, I don't really have a lot of time to look into the dirt sheet stuff, and also I never know what to believe. So maybe one of you guys has a better idea. Maybe he's already been parted ways with CM Punk, that is. But there's a lot happening in AEW, a lot to be excited about. And if you're somebody who watches both shows, and by both I mean AEW and WWE, it is such a good time to like wrestling. That's such a cliche thing to say, but it's really true. I'm really, really enjoying the amount of wrestling that's on. I'm never actually able to, because I have children going to bed at that time, able to watch it live. But I always try to play catch up, and I told you guys about my Hulu experience, which has been terrible. But I love that there's always so much. I could just catch everything. And we go back and just watch everything that I missed, and it just have hours worth of content. And I love that. Even when like I run out of stuff, if I've just been binging wrestling because I've missed some stuff throughout the week, even like NXT stuff, oh man, and even like Rampage, which I apologize I didn't get to tonight. It's just there's so much great stuff happening. You know what I mean? If you're not watching, you're truly missing out. I appreciate you guys tuning in. For those of you tuning in to hear me blab at midnight. I'm late once again with these shows. You got to bear with me, guys. I'll get it together, I promise. Said Travis on his 3rd week in a row. I do appreciate you guys listening, and I can't wait to cover our first pay-per-view. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, that's it from me, guys. Have a great one. Talk to you next week.
What's happening out in the wild world of independent wrestling? Weekend at Effie's. It's available on all podcast platforms and has the first-hand accounts of professional wrestler Effie each week as he tries to make sense of his crazy adventures, travel, and plethora of weird wrestling shows shared without interruption to friend and spiritual confidant Peter. Weekend at Effie's is a raw and thought-provoking look into a chaotic world, and with over a year of episodes available, there's plenty to listen to now. Just search Weekend at Effie's wherever you hear podcasts. That's Weekend at Effie's, EFFYS. They also have a TikTok and Twitter at Weekend at Effie's, or Patreon, patreon.com/Weekend at Effie's.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.